Diane Ken.
I just want to say that I feel
Good evening.
this is like domestic terrorism on American citizens.
We can't hear you.
I'm sorry. I find this is domestic terrorism, that we're at your mercy or the mercy of the real estate corporations that are totally corrupt, cutthroating, and you should look into and investigate everyone who owns property on what their corruption is. And people like us, especially people like us, I can see minorities, are being subject to your mercy that they have to come here. They can't live. This is like living in North Korea, that we don't have the freedom to feel the benefits of what America is supposed to be, especially being older. We're at your mercy. You know, these people bought buildings on the parapet to just not be caring about human beings, throw them out, do whatever they want, terrorize them. You know, I live in a building that they would love to cut my throat, you know, but I'm in terror every day because of my situation. I'm in terror. And this is supposed to be America. You know, if you can give me a boat, I'll go to Italy. You know, are we going to be refugees in this country? And to be so abusive to people, they're begging, they work hard, and that so many people are, you know, there are tens of buildings that can be renovated. You know, there are beautiful old house buildings on Atlantic Avenue way down. They can be renovated. That the landlords, the building owners, they just don't care about human beings. They destroy the environment. They knock down beautiful homes. They take away the beautiful grasses and the trees, and they build these ugly buildings. You know, and you keep feeding them. And a lot of foreigners have bought property here, so they're from another place. They don't care about us as Americans. We're, you know, we live here, and to be so abused by and be so scared of this, you know, these like real estate monsters, and we're at your mercy. This is America. I could live in North Korea better than I can live here with the money, you know, and all I can do is just beg for my life. And that's what people are doing. They're begging for their lives. They're begging to stay in their homes. And that you know, there shouldn't be a rent increase because these owners are making a profit. And if they can't afford to pay a profit, then they should leave. Leave the people in their homes. And if they buy property on the tension, it's not about housing human beings or caring about them. It's about a profit. If I could, I would love to make millions of dollars. But I don't think, God willing, I would never do it at the expense of another human being that have to come here and beg for mercy.
Thank you. We have to move on to the next speaker. Thank you. Frederick Johnson.
May I touch the mic?
Yes. Pick it up. Perfect.
Thanks so much. Good evening. My name's Frederick Johnson. I'm a resident of Brooklyn. My wife and I live on...
I think folks are saying they can't hear you.
Good evening. Is this good? All right. My name is Frederick Johnson. My wife and I live on 276 Rutland Road. I'm neither a tenant nor a landlord. I'm here because of the Flatbush Tenant Coalition. They actually gave me great insight and continue to about what is going on. I have good relationships. I actually know compassionate landlords. So why I'm here is you as the Rent Guidelines Board, you're not God. God is God. What I'm here is to plead for a vision. There is a vision that's needed. And what I'm asking for is to give the land a rest. Just give the land a rest. I don't know what your time period is, but just give the land a rest and allow the people that have solutions to come together to bring those solutions. There are two bills, and I know this is outside of your jurisdiction, but what I ask you as individuals is to follow up with our assembly people and our state senate regarding two bills. One is Bill A6285 about preferential rent, and the second bill is Bill A08838, 08886-A, and that deals with major capital improvements. Now, why I'm asking you to contact them, oh, my time's up?
No, you have 30 more seconds.
Okay. Why I'm asking you as individuals to follow up with the state is I believe they're still in session. So before the next elections come, This is why these people who are oppressed, some aren't. I'm not oppressed. Some people are doing okay. But what we want is nobody to be oppressed and to remove the things that are done wrong and done illegally to be resolved. And we'd like your help doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speakers are James Woods, Stephen Nieves, and Gloria Tejas Tovar.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm not here to talk to them. I'm here to talk to you. So let's be clear on this. The only thing they could deal with is the safety issue, and they're not ready to do that. However, you have the power to do what you need to do. You need to organize yourself, mobilize yourself, and buy your own. They're not going to do nothing. This is for Latif James, who is in office, who we are now moving to move out of office. This is for Eric Adams, who is in office, who are now removing to move out of office. What was it? 2013, we came in here and we spoke about these same issues. These elected officials were promising to address those concerns. They're not here today. They won't be here tomorrow. You are on your own. Follow up the objective opinion. Get ready. We are in resistance mode. I only came to let you know. We're going to do what we got to do. The rest is up to you. They just listening to you.
Thank you. Stephen Nieves.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for
My
coming.
name is Stephen Nieves. I'm from Park Slope, Brooklyn. And I grew up in Park Slope, Brooklyn. I've been there 54 years. And I used to be able to walk to Park Slope and say hi to my neighbors and my friends, but just one problem. There is no more friends and no more neighbors, because they've all been evicted, or they all had to relocate to Pennsylvania or Connecticut where it's affordable, because they can't afford Park Slope anymore, or they can't afford Brooklyn anymore in general. Right? And the only thing I see here today while I walk around is a whole bunch of high-rise condominium going up. For the rich, not for the poor. Right? And all I see today is all the rich walking around looking at me like I don't belong in the neighborhood. All right? And that is ridiculous. That I've been there 54 years and I can't even see my friends anymore or my neighbors because they're all been evicted or relocated. Now, what I'm asking is for a rent freeze, please. All right? That's all I'm asking for. Because it's just ridiculous. Also, Mayor de Blasio is saying that he's making all this affordable housing, low-income housing. Yeah. What is affordable housing? What is affordable housing? Let's talk about low-income housing. Because he don't have to worry. He has that big luxury of building over there in 11th Street and Park Slope, not too far from me. So he don't have to worry about being homeless. But we have to worry. Let's freeze this rent, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Gloria Tejas Tovar.
I'm small. Can you hear me? Okay. So my name is Gloria Tejas Tovar, and I kind of like just wrote it up really quick here. So I'm just going to summer it all up. So I understand we can't really control the developers. We can't really control the amount of rent they charge, meaning the landlords. Even with that, we have no control for inflation that keeps going up. And even if you work, they tax you, and they tax you a lot if you're a single individual. So, but what you, the rent guideline boards, can do is at least slow down the amount of increments being imposed. No amount will be better, but whatever is possible, the lowest you can. For the most part, well, everybody wants freeze. Yes, of course, it's ideal. It's ideal. They only say that because when you have people with disability, people with psychiatric disability, when you have single moms really trying to make it out there, trying to make a better life, when you have those who get sick and go into the hospitals, they can't really work to pay the rent and so on and forth. And you have people who just don't make enough. So regardless of how much is being charged, $3,000, $4,000, so on forth, what the most you can do is control the amount of increments. I understand developers will make the money, landlords will make the money however way possible. At the end of the day, we just want to live a dignifying life. And we want to live at most in an apartment or a room at most and not be displaced, because it is happening and it is real. We can't control that, but you guys can't control the amount going up. Thank you.
Thank you. The next three speakers are Emmett Mendoza Gaspar, Landry Harmon, and Julia Easterlin.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hi. Good evening, members of the Rangallons Board.
Just speak closer to the microphone, please.
Good evening, members of the Rangallons Board. My name is Emmett Mendoza Gaspar, and I am here as both as an ally, but also as a organizer. I'm here as an organizer who have worked very closely with these rent stabilized tenants in the neighborhoods of Park Slope and Gowanus. But I'm also here as an ally.
We're having trouble hearing you. Maybe.
All right. All right. Good evening. My name is Emmett Mendoza Gaspar, and I'm here as both as an ally and also as an organizer. I'm here as an organizer who works really closely with these rent stabilized tenants every day in the neighborhoods of Park Slope and Gowanus, but also as an ally who lives currently in public housing. As many as you know, public housing right now has been under close scrutiny in the press because of the issues of mold, lack of repairs, lead paint, rat infestation, and cockroach infestations. These issues are not only unique to public housing residents, but also to residents who live in rent-stabilized apartments. In the communities that I've worked in, we have faced a lot of displacement and a lot of gentrification. Between the years of 2007 and 2014, in Community Board or Community District 6, which includes Red Hook, Gowanus, Park Slope, and Carroll Gardens, we have seen close to 31.4% of all rent-stabilized tenants lost, which is higher than the 10.5% for the entire city. Additionally, I see these issues every day, as do the people that I work with. Recently, I went on the field to a building that is 516 4th Avenue, which when I checked last time on the internet on Just Fix It, it had at least 7 rent-stabilized tenants living there in the past 2 years. When I went there this Monday to check to see how these tenants were doing, there were none. On the first floor, and the second floor, and third floor, and the fourth floor, newly furnished, blue-painted hallways, doors lented with metal framings, and the giant door, like the little glass that allows you to see who's on the other side. When I spoke to some of these tenants, these were people who work in law, people who are right now practitioners in medicine as well. The reason I'm here is because this issue for me hits me close to home in public housing as well. In my own community in Fort Greene, I have lost a lot of friends, I have lost a lot of cousins, I've lost a lot of family members who have been forced to move across the Hudson River in New Jersey in communities that they can only afford. And I don't want to see this happening to the people I work with. Thank you.
Thank you. Landry Harmon.
Put this up here to drive my point home.
All right. Good evening.
Hi, how are you guys doing? So my name is Landry Harmon. I'm a rent-stabilized tenant here in Brooklyn, and I consider myself really lucky to be a rent-stabilized tenant. I'm also a member of the Metropolitan Council on Housing. I'm an activist with them. And in my job, I am an advocate at a legal nonprofit here in Brooklyn, working in their housing unit. And through my activism, and particularly through my work, I see firsthand the toll of these rising rents, like skyrocketing rents, take on my clients, many of whom, a big chunk of whom, the majority of whom are rent stabilized, who are suffering from stagnating rents or stagnating wages in the face of these rents. The toll it's taking on them as they kind of just cycle through housing court infinitely, it seems like on some cases. And you know, part of the reason that they're allowed or capable of just being here still is the fact that they are rent stabilized, but they're like literally barely holding on. And so, you know, it's like without rent stabilization, where would they go? There are currently 62,000 homeless people in New York. That's the figure as of April. There are more than 50% of tenants are rent burdened, so they pay more than 30% of their income towards rent. And an increase would likely lead to more homeless people. So that 0.75% increase you gave to a landlord just became a 20% increase because they get a vacancy bonus. It's compounded. Aside from the fact that it's going to hurt tenants and it's going to increase homelessness and it's going to make it harder for people to like eat or clothe their children, it's rewarding criminal landlord behavior. It's rewarding criminals who harass, who abuse their tenants in the name of greed and profit. 12 years of profit, 12 straight years of profit. So you have a moral imperative to, at the very least, 0% it, and at the most, roll it back.
Thank you. Julia Easterlin.
Good afternoon.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hello? Testing? Okay.
Fine.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Julia Easterlin. I'm a member of Met Council on Housing. They was very good to me for the 12 years, 30 years ago. I joined the Met Council and they helped me to get my money from DCHR. They went me to the court and all. This is the newcomer now, Miss Andrea. She's the new metropolitan. I think you'll remember Jane Benedict from Housing Council. Used to live in the Chelsea House Department. Okay, I was in front of you all because I didn't understand, because this is my first time being in an apartment for 30 years, and I hope this will be the last. I've been seeing a lot of things that happen and whatnot at the Guideline Board. So I'm going to ask, I could see more nationality before they hit all white. I'm not president, I'm letting you know. So now I'm asking you all again, I was a landlord, now I'm a tenant. How many people on this panel is a tenant? You're a tenant? How many people's in here is a tenant? I mean tenant. Don't look at me like I'm crazy now. How many people here is a tenant on this panel? That's what I asked 30 years ago. And you all was landlord. So you don't know what it's like if you're not a tenant. How many people is a landlord? How many people is a tenant? See, this is what I'm saying. Didn't you know what it's all about? So you see, help the people. Thank God I'm living good. It's not bad. They're trying to put me out. I'm in court now. But God is good. So I put him in front in everything I do, because this is a hell of a world that people are living in, and it don't make no sense that people have no home. The woman paying $40,000 to live in a shelter. Why don't you build an apartment or give an apartment? Stop the real estate from building. Tell the man, Governor Cuomo, de Blasio saying Portable House, they're not making nothing. Stop these real estate from building. Stop the real estate from building, because they're building and charging people a whole lot of money. They can't afford it. Like my what's it called? The one, wait, holophone. What is it? Just the girls that speak from that counselor. Like Landry? Yeah. Just like Andrew said, you're going to have more homeless. You got kids more homeless. That's not fair for the people. Help them out. Freeze it. Freeze them every year, because these landlords get away. We got bugs in our building. He took the super out. He cut off the emergency for the roof. Anybody try to come in, they now we can't do nothing. The place is all filthy and dirty. Now what kind of land? We got a slum landlord, and it's not right. Okay.
Thank you.
Talk to them, baby, because you a tenant, right? Okay, talk to them, honey. Yeah, talk to them. Let them know. Talk to them, baby. I thank you so much, and please think about what people say. It's serious. I know y'all live good. I live good too. I didn't have no idea my father was going to sell the house after my mother died 8 years later. I've been in Park Slope for 60 years. Okay? I want to move out and go to somewhere in North Carolina, maybe down there where it's cheap rent.
Okay, thank you. We need
Y'all
to
have a
move on to
blessed
the
night.
next
Thank you
speaker.
so much.
Thank you. The next speakers are Liam Veazey, Valerie Easterlin, and Jennifer Lee.
Hello, my name is Liam Veazey. I'm a tenant organizer at the Fifth Avenue Committee. I am here to speak on behalf of the tenants whom I work with who aren't able to be here tonight because they're working, caring for families, and trying to pay their rent. We know the statistics. New York City is in the middle of an affordability crisis, but more than this is a moral failing that we all must own and solve. Rent-stabilized housing is NYC's largest affordable housing stock, and we are losing it at an alarming rate. By freezing the rent, you can contribute to the effort to preserve the affordability of NYC. I want to quickly tell you about a few of the everyday experiences the tenants I work with face. There are families who have had to vacate their apartments because of peeling lead paint, collapsed ceilings, and untreated bed bug outbreaks. There are tenants who face construction as harassment. These tenants wake up at 5 or 6 in the morning with their walls shaking because of illegal construction. There are tenants who are constantly offered buyouts and threatened with fake eviction notices. There are tenants who have not had repairs for years and live with 6 family members in a 2-bedroom apartment. These stories, unfortunately, are not exceptional. Harassment is the standard practice for landlords citywide. Their primary aim is to displace working class tenants for greater profit. Do not help them. Do not show your approval of harassment by voting for an increase. The warranty of habitability states that landlords must maintain safe and livable apartments and buildings. Let me ask you a question. Do you think these tenants get paid if they do not do their jobs? So why should landlords get a rent increase for not doing their jobs? Vote for a rent freeze. Thank you.
Thank you. Valerie Easterlin. Valerie Easterlin. Okay. Jennifer Lee. Oh, Valerie's here. Okay. All right. Sorry about that.
All right. Good evening.
Good evening. What is the last name? I'm sorry.
Coley, C-O-L-E-Y.
Okay.
Valerie Coley.
Okay. Thank you.
So I'm a member of the Flatbush Tenants Coalition. I live at 1 St. Paul's Court. I've lived there 39 years. I raised 3 children there.
Just keep the microphone close.
My problem is it's not so much about me, but I'm here because of what the preferential rents are doing to tenants. We have elderly, senior tenants. An example, a senior tenant in our building. She had a preferential rent. She's lived there 10 years with a preferential rent of $975. Her rent was frozen at $975. Now, her lease renewal came up, I think last month. She came down to me and she showed me that her rent was increased. First it was $1,300. Then they sent her a letter saying that she owes $562. So now her rent is $1,600 plus. Scree is not going to cover it. They sent her a letter telling her that she's responsible for it because they froze her rent and that's all they pay. Okay, so now what is going on in our building over the years? I have seen so many tenants that have left after when their lease renewal comes up because they've had preferential rents. I saw one young family left the building because their rent was increased $600 from I think $1,400 to over $2,000. They had to move because they could not afford it. Another tenant, she moved out at $900. They subdivided the apartment, a 1-bedroom. They subdivided it to a 2-bedroom. They raised it to a preferential rent of $2,100. When that lease was up, they had to move because it went up another $200 or $300. They moved. The new tenant now, her preferential rent is $23,500. Her legal rent is $25,500. So when her lease is up, it might go to $2,700, become destabilized. She's probably going to have to move as well. Now, what I'm saying is all of this creates homelessness. A lot of people who have been displaced because of preferential rents, they end up homeless. A lot of tenants are evicted because they can't pay the rent. They go to court. It doesn't help. They still have to leave.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. I have to interrupt you because your time is up.
Already?
Yes. I'm sorry. We have to move on to the next speaker.
Call me back if nobody else comes up.
All right. Jennifer Lee.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Lee. I currently live with my mom here at 1 St. Paul's Court. Our landlord is Shamco. I love my neighborhood. I love walking in the park. I love seeing my neighbors and saying hello to them. I love having access to transportation, the shopping centers, and everything. We live in East Flatbush. And I love the culture which currently resides there, which is Caribbean. Love it. Absolutely love it. All tenants are being affected by what is happening here, the the housing crisis, the MCIs, the YAIs, the preferential rents, the preferential rents. Older tenants are forced to leave because, either because of harassment or because their rents are raised illegally. And the ones who currently live there have to live under horrible conditions because, again, harassment. The landlords want them out. Okay? When these tenants move, newer tenants move in, they're under a preferential rent. After 1 or 2 years of their lease, their rent is increased and they're forced to move. The moving turnover in our building is enormous. So many people have moved in and have moved out over the past, how many years, Mama? Okay, 4 or 5 years. We need, over 62,498 homeless people, including 15,176 homeless families with 22,801 homeless children have slept in shelters or they're sleeping on the streets. This is about humanity. This is about compassion. This is about looking at the human elements of this and seeing that everybody has a right to a place to live, a decent place to live. We need a rent rollback, and we need a rent freeze or a rent rollback, or this problem is going to get worse. Thank you.
Thank you. Just another reminder, if you want to speak this evening, you need to register by 8 o'clock. I have 7:37, so if you want to speak, you do need to register out at the front desk with the RGB staff.
Les recordamos que si quieren testificar esta noche, la registración está abierta hasta las 8 de la noche y ahora estamos a las 7:37. Gracias.
Thank you. The next three speakers are Paulette, is that right? Paulette Costin, Margaret Dewsbury, and Paulette James. Good evening.
Oh, good evening. I was wondering where that came from. Okay. My name is Paulette Costin. I live at 63 Tiffany Place. I'm from Carroll Gardens. They had helped me a lot. When I say a lot, I mean a lot. We have the worst slum landlord, and they have a list. They have a list at the courthouse about the slum landlords. My landlord was number 3. Why did y'all give him a 5% or whatever increase? He doesn't deserve it. He or she does not deserve it. He has 5 in the 5 barrels. He owns apartments, buildings, and I feel that he shouldn't get anything. You know, I don't work anymore. I retired. My rent went from $821 to $1,116. Then it went to $1,166. Tell me, why do he deserve that or she deserve that kind of money? Come on, I can't even pay my copay. I can't pay my copay because my rent is too high. I had to go down and get some food stamps. Thank God for that. Or else I would have nowhere to go. I'm asking y'all again, aren't y'all tired of seeing us? Because I'm daggone tired of seeing y'all. And coming down here, don't get me wrong, I love all of y'all, but I'm tired of coming down here fighting for the same old thing, and y'all ain't doing nothing but giving them more increase. Please, I ask you, I'm begging you. You want me to get on my knees? I'll do it. Because if I won't have nowhere to live. I'll be homeless. You know, my income is $1,324. Now, y'all do the figure. I don't have anything left. You know what I have to tell the doctors? Bill me, and then I still can't pay the bill. You know, it's a shame. Come on, y'all gotta do something. Look at the list. Look at the list and see the worst landlords. And if they on that list, don't give them nothing.
Thank you. Margaret Dewsbury.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the panel, and also tenants, landlord. Now, I'm a person, I believe in fairness and equality. About 3 or 4 years ago, I was standing in front of, not everybody who's here obviously, but around the corner in Borough Hall, they had the meeting. Now, for me, because of the timing of when I get my lease, I already got my lease. Now, like I said before, when I stand and spoke, we understand that everybody needs help and you guys are going to do what's best for you guys. But all I'm asking for is a fairness in whether you guys not asking you guys not to raise it too high. I'm a nanny. I work for a living. And at the end of the day, I'm just looking for a place to put my head. I live in 1090 East New York Avenue. My building was sold. They never told us for months on end. We just got a little letter below the door. The building was sold. In order for them to get to the tenants to raise the fee, they pretended they sold the building. He basically just gave it to a distant cousin and said he sold it. So the preferential rent that we used to get went out the door and the price went up. Now my cousin, who was living there for years, I moved in 2006. Currently my rent is 12 something and it's a 1-bedroom. My cousin was living in a 2-bedroom. Eventually they got evicted. The rent I knew wasn't even $1,400 for a 2-bedroom. You know how much I'm renting it for now? $2,100. They cut it up. They got somebody probably called the city for a stop work order, but they know how to work the system. So they cut it up. Where the kitchen used to be is a bedroom. You should see the space for the closet. It's about this size. I was so shocked that I just closed it. The kitchen, the living room, and the dining room is in one, and the rent is $2,100. But at the end of the day, they're greedy for the money. But guess what? The tenants that they're getting is no good, because the tenants and them, it's about, let's say about 15 people almost living in there. So, you know, it's extra water, everything. So by being greedy and raising the rent, they don't see that they're going to be paying extra, because the water is not cheap. They have to pay that, the taxes, everything. So all I'm asking for you guys to do is consider us the tenants who are working hard. I don't ask the system for anything. I don't get food vouchers. The only thing I accept from the city is healthcare, because I can't afford it. I'm a single parent. I have a child. And at the end of the day, all I'm looking for is just a safe place to rest my head. Thank you, guys. And one more thing, as I just always say, everybody does say zero rent, but in equality and fairness, I ask you guys to do what you think is right for the tenant as well as the landlord. Thank you.
Thank you. Paulette James.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Thank you for coming.
Yes, thank you so much for listening. My name is Paulette James, and I'm a member of the Flatbush Tenant Coalition. And I'm here this evening. I live at 1370 New York Avenue. Well, we are all here again, tenants, asking for a rent freeze. My God. How many years I stood in front of this mic, and still I'm not comforted. Now we are placed in a position worse than the dogs. Soon there will be ads on the television for tenants, persons who want tenants to be assisted by persons who would like to adopt them, because we cannot pay our rent. The things that tenants go through with landlords, it is already poured out here. How much more must I add to it? Now I can look around and see that tenants are disgusted. Look at this room. I've never came here and see an empty room like this. But they are disgusted. What can we do? Don't the board seek to find out what the grief we go through in our daily walks of life? Please help us with a rent freeze. Now, tenants, whatever the outcome is, let us walk away, not in anger, because it will just hurt us more. We don't want to walk away and feel bad and say bad things to the board. No, we don't know. Let us continue to live in love. Don't think about suicide. We are poor, but don't think about suicide, because suicide is that you just gone. But let us live to see what will go on someday, sometime, with God's help. A board would give us our satisfaction. Thank you.
Thank you. The next three speakers are Andrew Fotz-Morrison, Grace Shannon, and Diane Siegel. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for taking the time to listen to our comments. Later this year, in November, voters in California will vote to consider a ballot initiative that would allow cities to impose rent regulations similar to what exists in New York. I hope they do the right thing and adopt this measure, because it underscores one valuable lesson that we have learned in the past year, that with the tax bill being passed, with HUD being sold off to the highest bidder, and with all of the terrible things happening with Trump as president, it is clear that Washington is not going to save us. Therefore, I emphasize in my testimony to you tonight that we, as New Yorkers, have to preserve what we have, because there isn't anyone else that's going to help us. And you may have your criticisms of rent stabilization as it exists, but the fact is it exists, and it protects millions of New Yorkers from undue rent increases and keeps them in their homes when nothing else will. So I ask you, consider that a rent freeze is a vote to protect and a vote to strengthen the precedent for one of the few policies that we have left that protects working New Yorkers from undue rent increases and gives them a modicum of security in their homes. And for once, just let the landlords lose money. Like, let them make a little bit less money than the previous year. Like, is that really the worst thing in the world? Like, you can cut the tenants a break. We all know that. So do the right thing, freeze the rent. Thank you.
Thank you. Grace Shannon.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank
As you
for
can
coming.
see, I'm old. So, the reason I'm here, I'm a senior, right? And the reason I'm here is, I guess everybody would have, first of all, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. First of all, I wanted to say that housing is a human right. And unfortunately, we have, and you know, we know that democracy is supposedly for the people, of the people, and by the people. Now, I'm going to say this quickly. In 1959, I came here. Most people had a home or a place to live and all of that. Now, in 2018, this democracy is really disgusting. I'll tell you why. Because in 2018, the seniors, this is not for me personally, but I'm speaking for seniors because I've been to many public hearings, and people that are working speak for what they need, right? But seniors usually don't show up. So I'm showing up for them because it appears, and I'll tell you why. I'm not speaking for me, thank God. I have a roof over my head that God provided for me. However, the reason I'm an advocate for like a year now, I'm going to different public hearings and talking about seniors, is because the seniors, the thousands of seniors that need senior citizen housing, now there's either a 7-year or a 10-year waiting period. So a lot of thousands of seniors that can't afford the rents they used to afford, many of them are living in the streets, many of them are living in homeless shelters, and many of them are living with friends and family that don't want them. Now, a lot of these seniors, they had a home, right? But once they retired, some of them could not afford where they were living. So they applied for senior citizen housing, and they're told now it used to be 5-year waiting period, now it's a 7-year or a 10-year waiting period. So you could be dead before they call you. The other thing is, we know about SCREE. SCREE helps you to stay in your apartment and all of that, but it doesn't help everybody. So what I would like to say is, please freeze the rent, because the population that's hurt the most is the seniors. And what hurts me the most when I speak about this is that these seniors work hard and help build this country. But I've been to Brooklyn Borough President's office, I went all the way to Albany to speak to my assemblyman, Walter Mosley, and this is the question I asked him. Got up early to take the bus. A group of us went from Brooklyn Borough President's office for free on the bus. And the only question I asked him is, how many senior citizen housing are you building, and when is it going to be completed? No, I'm not stupid. I know you have to make a proposal and all of that. But do something, because we can't just depend on Bill de Blasio, our mayor. We need, the shortage is so terrible that we need help from the state government and the federal government. And by the way,
Thank you.
when I was speaking, I told him there are more seniors now than before, and there's less senior citizen housing. So please, freeze the rent, because the ones that are being hurt the most are the seniors.
Thank you very much. Diane Siegel. Excuse me, Ms. Siegel, just let me make an announcement. If you want to speak this evening, you need to register by 8 o'clock. It's 7:54, so if you want to speak, be sure to register by 8 o'clock. Thank you. Ms. Siegel, go ahead. Oh,
All right,
I'm sorry,
so-
we need to get the translated.
Si alguien más quiere testificar esta tarde, quedan 6 minutos para inscribirse en la entrada. Gracias.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I didn't really plan to say much, but following up on what the woman who just spoke said, I'm in my 70s. I can still work, luckily, and but if I weren't working, if I weren't able to work, which could happen, I don't know when, my rent would be 54% of my Social Security. So I'm very frightened of the incremental every year. What will it be when I'm dependent totally on Social Security? And it's been going up and up as long as I can remember. Also for perspective, because I've been here a long time. When I was young, housing was not an issue. Rent-stabilized apartments were plentiful. Nobody had to worry if you wanted to move from this neighborhood to that neighborhood. There was no problem in finding apartments. What's happened in the last, I guess, 30, maybe 35 years is the rent-stabilized apartments have been pulled out and turned into co-ops. People have been displaced. Homelessness was not an issue when I was young and even middle-aged. This is an ever-increasing crisis. Every year builds on the year before. And the laws that are being made are so anti-tenant, so anti-human, that it's becoming impossible to live in this city. And the power that you have is only, frankly, I don't know what power you guys have, but I know that you do have the power to stop that incremental, every year, blow to people's lives. And if that's the only power that you have, I beg you to use it. And if you're not up to rolling it back, freeze it.
Thank you. The next three speakers are Ivan Garcia, Marcela Matenas, and Beverly Wright.
Good evening. Thank
Good
you
evening.
for taking some time to listen to my testimony, and thanks everyone for coming out tonight. My name is Ivan Garcia. So unfortunately, I don't live in rent-stabilized apartment, but my mother does. Ever since she came to this country, she's lived in the same apartment. And you know, every year we're hearing about a rent increase, you know, and she can no longer afford to like pay her rent and every other bill on top of that. Luckily, she has kids who do help her, like myself and my older brother, whether it's with the rent or the cell phone bill or just something. And every month we pretty much have to ask, what do you need help with? And that's kind of shitty. I don't think that my mom should ever have to worry about paying her rent, paying her bill, or buying herself something to eat. Like, we came here for a better opportunity, not to be living in these conditions. And I'm going to end it with this. Every year we're standing here in front of you guys to pretty much do a rent freeze. And, you know, we're talking about an increase for a landlord, which in a sense is a pay raise. I don't know about everyone else here, but my mom doesn't get a pay raise every year. All right? She can't go in front of a board and say, hey, I deserve 7% pay raise because of X, Y, and Z. All right? And I don't think that landlords should be having this as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Marcela Martinez, is that correct?
Yes, good evening. My name is Marcela Martinez, and I grew up in Sunset Park, and I am currently an advocate and organizer for Neighbors Helping Neighbors. Earlier you heard various tenants talk about the need for help with the rent in a rent freeze from our community. But I'd also like to point out that this is my first time testifying before the Rent Guidelines Board was in 2008, when I was facing gentrification pressures in my community and where I live. And back in 2008, I looked at my neighbors and I looked at what was happening. And back then, my testimony included asking for a 0 increase. Think about that. That's in 2008, when I was personally facing issues of gentrification and harassment and bad conditions, everything that you've heard. Fast forward to 10 years, where I'm now trying to educate and help the tenants in my community, and we are still asking for the same thing. It's important to note also that year after year, tenants outnumber the amount of landlords that come out to these hearings. I believe there was only one landlord that testified tonight. These increases for renewals are just one type of increase that they receive. They are abusing the MCIs, because what they are doing is they are fixing the outside of the building for the new tenants that are coming in. There are individual apartment increases. They get a 20% increase for the apartment just being empty and renewing it for a new tenant. They are not going to suffer the way tenants will. They are not going to lose their homes. They're going to have enough to eat, and they're not going to lose the shirts under their backs. These landlords are looking at our rent-stabilized apartments as underdeveloped assets. And once they get the long-term, low-paying tenants out, they will hit a gold mine, and what they want is to be able to charge whatever it is that they feel like it. Year after year, they come and they cry and complain about not making enough money. I don't know anyone else who continues to take a loss year after year. So it's important for you to understand that you have tremendous power in what's happening in New York City. We are in a housing crisis. We've been in a housing crisis. Rent stabilization is an emergency protection law that was initiated because the vacancy was so low and to avoid price gouging. You have the power to make the difference, to keep people in their homes. You have the power to make history. Look deep within yourself and follow your moral compass on what the right thing to do is. Because New York City has become the playground of the rich, and the reason that people came here for the diversity is being disseminated, where the people are fleeing. I had a senior who had to call her mom down in Florida to send her money because she was being evicted. People are leaving New York City, and what makes New York City rich and diverse are us, the working class community. The working class community that keeps New York alive and thriving and operating 24 hours a day. Look within yourself and hope to look back and see that you will be on the right side of history. What tenants need is a rollback. But if you can't do that, a rent freeze would go also a very long way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Beverly Wright. Good evening.
Good evening to everyone. My name is Beverly Wright. I live in Flatbush Garden over 18 years. I am here with Flatbush Coalition tenant. I am disabled because of my back. I have one of the terriblest back pain. It's penetrate down in the legs. And right now I'm in court with my landlord, but I'm not talking about that right now. I am living off a little bit of Social Security, and it does not cover my rent. So I am asking for a rent freeze. A rent freeze, so I could live, and I don't have to go on the street. Right now, my landlord wants to evict me because they said I owe them money from 2016. I don't know how that goes. They took me to court 2016, and the money that I had on the court paper, I paid up. But when I got a call from them, they said all that money wasn't paid off. And I think that is harassment. I am at home, and there was this two big chopped in men came to my door at about 8 o'clock in the night, knocking down the door, asking, "Oh, are you Beverly Wright?" I said, "Yes." "Why are you here?" "Oh, you owe an extended amount of money to the landlord." So I said, "No, I don't owe the landlord anything." So they went away. 2 times they came. And when I tried to figure out how it goes, they said they have right to send the security there. I don't know about that. But today, miss, I am asking for a rent freeze, because if I don't get a rent freeze, I don't know how I'm going to pay my rent. And I am disabled. When I tell you I have the worst back pain you can ever think about. The worst. And that is my testimony to you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Bonnie Paley. Good evening.
For letting me speak. I found out from Met Council. Thank you for letting me speak. I found out from Met Council where you were going to be, because normally you're in Borough Hall. I'm going to be quick and short. I live at 277 Gates Avenue, Brooklyn, New York, and Bed-Stuy, and I've been there for 14 years, okay? I do have some partial Section 8, and I pay the rest. And it was once run by Pratt Area Community Council, who in 2015, I knew something was going to happen. Most of us did. Majority of us been in the building for the same time, except one tenant been in there 37 years. I knew Pratt was going under, okay? So for a year, They didn't do anything. Now they changed their name to Impact Brooklyn. They don't want to manage. They still own the deed, so they split their buildings between L&M Development under that CC management. They didn't want my building because it had too much violations, okay? And Pratt had to correct. They have fines. And so they got Lemnier Wolf. Lemnier Wolf in Broadway and Broadway in the Bronx, right? Near 240th and Van Cortlandt Park. One of the worst management companies since July of 2015. I have never in my life seen a bunch of filth. All they want is money, okay? Pay your rent. Yes, you have to do that if you want to fight in court. Otherwise, a court judge would say, well, you know, why didn't you pay your rent, all right? Now, a few months ago, I'm going to be honest with you, I held back my rent. I paid it. I did pay it, okay? Because right now, every time a fine comes to the building, I take it and make a copy. They have so much, they have about maybe $10,000 in fines. For 1 year, they've had a sidewalk shut up, okay? Because the bricks got pointed in August of 2015 by Impact Brooklyn, but it wasn't completed. So all they gotta do, I know it takes money, right? They can get funded. It's it's terracotta. For 1 year, or Brian Wynn, who became a property manager, because any one of you could go to Baruch College, okay? But I'm sure each one of you have intelligence. They're not doing nothing, all right? So yeah, I called 311. He wrote something up on me, harassment, okay? And thinks he could get me out of there. Well, I still know that Impact Brooklyn has offices, and they're one of their main thing is not to evict people when you're not a undesirable tenant, right? He can't get me out, and I'm not going to stop speaking. Right now, I'm organizing a petition. I'm a member of, I have joined Tenants and Neighbors. I've been a member. Now I'm a joint Met Council. I've known about them for a long time. I want to fight for my rights, not just for me. Okay, but I'm gonna ask y'all one thing because I know the buzz is buzzing. Can you please, if you can freeze it, that'll be a blessing. But if you can't, then give what you gave last year. Okay, 1.25% or whatever it is for 2 years. But please don't raise up. I'll let everybody else speak. Please don't make this rent any more than what it is, because I'm sure each one of you look downtown Brooklyn. Look at what Marty Markovitz wanted, right? State of the art, co-ops, rentals. I'm sure even if each one of you got a decent job, nobody in their life, not even myself, even if I could afford it, wants to pay a management company $4,500 so I can have big windows. Well, I got big windows, 72 times 85. But you know what? Right now, I look at Housing Connect, and I'm looking around. Trust me, but I can't afford $2,500 a month, okay? Because you know what? It's too damn expensive. That means that either I don't pay my car net or I'm not going to eat and feed my grandchild. Okay? So all I'm asking that each one of you, okay? And I realize you get appointed by the mayor, and I'm sure the mayor wants to do good, right? Rent stabilization is not easy to get by. But when you're in there, you don't want to leave, okay? Or unless you move to another state. And I know rents are lower in Tennessee, and I know rents ain't easy in Florida, because I got people that live out there. But I'm asking each one of you to understand that people in this country can't afford these big luxury rents, okay? So I'm asking you, when you vote on June 26th, please think in mind of each individual, okay, including you all as human beings. Because no matter how you vote, you're still God's daughter and son. And I'm asking you all to think positive and give us all an opportunity, because not everybody can afford this high luxury rent. And most management companies, most of them are scumlords, and they're not fixing up buildings. They want that money, but they rent stabilized building, they can't take it off the chopping block. And I tell them every damn time I get an opportunity. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you. That concludes the testimony this evening. I want to thank everybody for coming out. This is very important. It's critical to our decision making that we hear from everyone. Appreciate your testimony. Thank you and have a good evening. I need a motion to adjourn. We're in adjournment. Thank you.